Ekaite and Udo got married, and their marriage was sweet. Everything was going on well. But Ekaite and Udo stayed for many years without children. So Udo had a business transaction with some friends, and the man who was supposed to pay the money did not pay the complete money. And when Udo decided to call for a meeting to let them know how much the man paid and how much everybody was going to get, his friends, some accepted the money or some agreed and some did not, only for them to go plan with some bad boys to invade Udo's house. And when they got into the house, something very, very bad happened. They came in, marked, that their faces were marked as though they were armed robbers. But one particular man did not mark his face, and he was their leader. And they came into the house and they asked them for money. They brought money. They took every property they wanted to take in the house. But their leader decided to take Ekaite to a particular place, and he did the do with Ekaite. He took advantage of her, and she cried and screamed and did everything, and Ekaite came out broken. Remember that when Udo and Ekaite got married, Ekaite didn't have a baby, she didn't have children. So after everything that happened, the armed robbers, or they weren't hire assassins, because what they came to do was to really, really hurt Udo. And Ekaite, Udo took the wife to the hospital and told the doctor that Ekaite was raped. But when the doctor checked her and they decided to do some flushing, they thought they had flushed Ekaite and all, so that nothing will remain inside her body, because the guy did not protect himself. Like 3 weeks later, Ekaite started feeling nausea, she started feeling headache, she started, feeling sick. They didn't know what the problem was, and they took Ekaite back to the hospital. When they got to the hospital, the doctor decided to run a pregnancy test on Ekaite. And when they did, they saw that Ekaite's pregnancy was showing a positive faint line. And when the doctor told Udo, the husband of Ekaite, the doctor advised that they should give it some time and then come back, because it is showing a faint line of being positive. Normally, when you do a pregnancy test, there are 2 lines. Once those lines show red completely, it means the person is pregnant. But when one is showing faint, it's good to repeat the pregnancy test. So he gave them 2 weeks to come back. That would have made it like 5 weeks. When we came back, the man decided to do a transvaginal scan after doing the normal abdominal scan, because he needed to be sure. When he did that, he discovered that Ekaite was actually pregnant. And when they now did the normal ultrasound scan, they discovered that Ekaite was having 2 heartbeats, like 2 babies, which twins. And Ekaite, because they woke up from sleep when that thing happened, Ekaite actually thought the man who did the thing was a ghost. Like, it was not normal, it was not a real person, because every other person were maxed. Only that man was not maxed. And Ekaite recognized the man. And she kept saying that wherever she saw the man, she was going to recognize the man. So fast forward, Udo decided to have an agreement with Ekaite that they should keep the babies, since the person who got her pregnant is not aware that she took in. But one thing that particular guy that got her pregnant does is that he knows that, because of the charm he carries, he knows that every woman he sleeps with is usually getting pregnant, and that woman will never be able to abort the babies. But in Ekaite's case, she never had the intention of aborting the baby because of what her husband discussed with her. So Udo decided to keep the babies, which they thought were just 2. Only for them to go for another scan 2 weeks later and discover that there were 3 heartbeats. And the 3 heartbeats now were showing that they were triplets. So they decided to discuss with the doctor that what's going to happen. The doctor said, well, if they intend to keep the babies, it will be a good one since they do not have children, because any chance of aborting may cause Ekaete never to have children, meaning that being that they have already suffered, childlessness for a while. So when Ekaete decided to start going for antenatal, one of the days the doctor now decided to scan her again and discovered that the children were now 4, that's quadruplet, no more triplet. Ekaete decided to tell the husband. The husband said they should still keep the pregnancy. So she had the pregnancy and carried it to term. So after the children grew to let's say to 5 years, Ekaete and Udo relocated out of that community, out of the state to another place. As it got to that place, the man who raped Ekaete had become a pastor in another church. So when they got to that state, they decided to start attending the church because they heard about the church. And when they got to the church, Ekaete recognized the man, but the man did not recognize Ekaete and Udo. But the man knows Udo. So one day, the man was now giving a testimony about his past, how he was a notorious killer, but his own killing is that he doesn't kill people with a gun. He sleeps with their wives or their girlfriends or whoever is, in the house. That was his stock in trade, and anybody he slept with, the person must be pregnant, and the person the person must be pregnant, cannot abort it. That he feels that he has had so many children right now scattered in the country, but he cannot place some of them, but he knows some of them. Immediately Ekaete heard that testimony. You know how pastors will preach and give their life history about how they were before in the past. So Ekaete now pinched the husband and said, which means the person that really raped her was not really a ghost, it was this man. The husband now said it's possible. So Ekaete, the man, when Ekaete and the husband, because they've worshipped in that church for maybe 3 Sundays, when Ekaete and the husband heard this, they decided within themselves that they are not going to come back to this church. What will shock you is that the pastor now walked up to Ekaete in the process of greeting them, how pastors can greet. And the man now called Udo aside and said, Mr. Udo, how are you doing? Hope my babies are doing well. Mr. Udo now shook his hand, dropped his hand off the pastor's hand and said, whether he is now a pastor or not, they are going to take up the matter. But that he knows that when anybody buys a land, any property on that land belongs to the owner, that the children now belongs to him, but he's going to face the consequences of his action. That was how this pastor decided to call his lawyer to say the children Mr. Udo has, the quadruplet are his children. The matter went to court. This is how, as the matter went to court, the Udo's lawyer, being a family lawyer who is well trained and a senior advocate, he went into the matter. They did DNA. They brought them DNA to court. It was showing the pastor's DNA, and then the church members were offended. That why would the pastor? He has done that in the past and has, repented of his sins. Why will he come to do that kind of a thing for people who came to his church and thought maybe they have left their past and coming to meet the pastor in that particular church? And the funny thing is that Ekaete thought the person was actually a ghost because it was funny that he did not mark his face. Other people had marked their faces. That was how Ekaete and Udo went into the legal battle and they won the case. And the pastor was arrested and prosecuted and locked up. The church members, began to leave the church. Even when the elders tried to hold the church down, they left the church because they couldn't believe that after you have said your story of the past, telling your story to encourage other people to come out of sin, you still went back to remind a family of something that had passed. And the funny thing is that if they had even noticed from the first day they came, they would not have stayed in that church until that point. But they thought, could people resemble like this? You know how sometimes people can really look alike. They were now wondering until the pastor shared his testimony about what he had done in the past, about anybody he has slept with not being able to abort the child. But in all of this, Udo and Ekaete won the case. They have their babies with them. The quadruplets are growing. And the good thing is that nobody had told the children what had happened. And Udo's wife had to leave the marriage with her children and relocated out of the country because of the shame the husband had brought.